I'm ready, yes.
Okay, good evening. Quorum is present for the July 24th session of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Bowling Green, and the meeting is in session. First order of business is the approval of minutes from the June 2024 meeting as previously circulated. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval as circulated.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Crawford, seconded by Mr. Sockman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this evening we have only one case before us. We had two scheduled, and Mr. Crawford needed to recuse himself from that case, and therefore we do not have a quorum, so we only have the one case. The most recent version of the city's zoning code was adopted about a year ago in June of 2023, and one of the duties of the Zoning Board of Appeals is the consideration of variances, the relaxing of regulations included in the code. Paraphrasing from the code, in certain situations where strict application of requirements would create practical difficulties for property owners, the board may grant an application's request for a variance, and in so doing may impose such reasonable conditions as it may deem necessary to accomplish the purposes of the zoning code. Further paraphrasing from the zoning code, in order for the board to determine whether strict application of the code would create sufficient practical difficulties to warrant the granting of variance, the applicant in his or her application and in their testimony this evening must present credible evidence referencing the 7 criteria that are included in the code at 150.107B, and the board shall consider those criteria in making its determination. All applicants have acknowledged that they have reviewed that section and those criteria. Any appeals of decisions by the board may be made to the Wood County Court of Common Pleas, and as such, this is a quasi-legal proceeding, and anyone wishing to testify in any matter before us will be required to swear an oath to tell the truth. A court reporter is present and will be making a verbatim transcript of the testimony this evening. All cases will be heard in the order printed on the agenda, so that's one. I will read the variance request aloud. The city's director of planning will then give us an overview of the request and the applicable law, and then the applicant will be invited to present his or her credible evidence citing the reason why that strict application of the provisions in the zoning code will result in practical difficulties for you. And then anyone else who would desire to offer testimony either in favor of or not for the request will be invited to speak, and at the appropriate time the public comment will be cut off except for any questions from the board from the applicant. And prior to a vote on a request, the members of the board will be invited to make any final comments that they would like to make to clarify their position on the request. So at this time, I'll ask anyone who plans to testify or anyone who thinks they might want to testify to please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Before we begin, since this is a driveway request and we've had so many of them, I do have some information that I want to share with everyone, and that is that I've been made aware that the city planning staff is preparing some amendments or some edits to the zoning code, and among those is one that will address parking in 1- and 2-family dwelling situations, and the maximum driveway width thing that we've struggled with a little bit here. I think the outcome of that is not known at this point in time, nor is how long that process will take, but the good news is it sounds like it's going to be considered. So Heather, is that accurate?
Yes, definitely.
All right, thank you. Okay, our one case then this evening, Dominic Wells, 915 Wilson Drive, has requested a variance to allow the construction of an 8-foot by 42-foot driveway extension, which would be 6 feet wider than the maximum width allowed based on the width of the garage to which it leads. Heather, do you have a overview for us?
Yes, under the zoning code, section 150.72, off-street parking, under A, location of off-street parking, number 3, where serving a 1-unit or 2-unit dwelling use, a driveway may not exceed a width of 10 feet or the width of a garage to which it leads, whichever is greater. Here's an aerial view of the property. You can see it's on the corner there of Wilson and Brigham. Using pictometry, here's a view of the back of the property. Here's looking at the side, and then the front, and then we'll say the other front at that angle. Here's a picture of the front of the home where that driveway is, and then this is looking towards more of the corner. And then here's looking towards the house on Brigham, which would be facing north there. And then here's back facing towards that driveway. And then here's looking straight at the driveway where it leads to the garage. Another view of the driveway. And then this is looking more straight onto the area where he does wish to expand that. And then we just tried to show there with a line of where it's proposing to go towards, past the garage. And then here's the sketch that was part of your packet showing that bit of a bump out, so it wouldn't go right up to the garage because he has some landscaping there, but then it would bump out that additional 8 feet, but technically going past the garage would be 6 feet, and that is what the variance is required for. We did not receive any written or verbal communication from any of the adjoining property owners. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the administrative code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first-class mail, to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. Mr. Wells, I assume? Yeah. If you'd step up and please speak into the microphone and
Yeah,
give us
absolutely.
your name and your address.
Dominic Wells, 915 Wilson Drive.
Okay, and you confirm for us that you did swear your oath to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Tell us about your request, and keep in mind that we're trying to find that practical difficulty so that we can give you this variance.
Sure. So we purchased the home in 2020 from an estate. It was a one-family owned home. They built it, her and her wife, or her and her husband built it in 1951 or something like that. And the driveway never got expanded. A lot of the driveways in our neighborhood have been expanded, even with one-car garages. But she lived mostly alone, so it never got expanded. For the last 4 years, we've been shuffling our cars in and out. My wife and I work different schedules. We have different pickup times for kids, and we're constantly shuffling cars in and out of the driveway to pick up the kids, take them to appointments, things like that. You can legally park on our street, but it is, as you can see from the pictures, a pretty narrow street. There's enough room to get around, but parking on the street is not practical, or we do it when we have to, but people in the neighborhood don't do it. And there's a lot of walkers, even though there's no sidewalks, so we try to avoid parking in the street. And it's just become something that we've talked about over time, trying to get it so we can park 2 cars side by side and make it easier for when family comes to visit and things like that, because we really have no place to put cars besides our own. So happy to answer any questions, but that's the gist of it.
Any questions from the board members? Anyone else care to comment? All right. Is there a motion for the disposition of Mr. Wells' request?
No, I just, this is, a couple meetings ago, we had another house in this neighborhood that applied for that just down the street that I think we granted. And most of the houses on that road do have enough to park 2 cars. So I really don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, it seems like a fairly modest request. I mean, he's already entitled to 2 feet of it, so, I mean, it seems like in keeping with the neighborhood.
When I drove down the street, I counted 5 of 8 driveways into the street. His would be the 6th if we would grant, that have already outside of the current zoning regulations.
Okay. Anything else? I think as I view it, in our 7 criteria, I think you're fine. It's the one that usually gets me on these is it significant? And in this case, I don't think in any way, shape, or form it's significant. So is there a motion?
I so move.
Second?
I second.
It's been moved by Mr. Sockman, seconded by Mr. Emmerich, that Mr. Wells' variance request be approved as submitted. The secretary, please call the roll.
Jeff Crawford,
Yes.
Tim Emmerich,
Yes.
Rod Noble,
Yes.
Jay Sockman, yes.
Okay, Mr. Wells, your variance request has been approved, and please contact the planning department, and you can obtain zoning permit, and best of luck to you.
Great. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right. The next item on the agenda is lobby visitation. Anyone, the two members of our lobby have anything to say this evening? Okay. Anything
I do
else
want to
from the
request
board?
if you could please officially table the second case.
good point.
And then that can be noted, so at least we have it on the schedule. If we happen to be able to move it sooner, we can do that, but at least if we have a record of it being tabled.
Thank you. Is there a motion to table the second case?
I motion to table the second case.
The second?
I'll second.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Emmerich, seconded by Mr. Sockman, that the second case this evening be tabled until next month unless it's possible to schedule a second meeting or a special meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. All right. I think that's it then. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.